In Tech Matters, a look at the case for bimodal IT in government. This week at VMware's Public Sector Innovation Summit put on by FedScoop, Federal Chief Information Officer Tony Scott said his office is pulling together information on bimodal IT management policy. Joining me with the latest is Alan Chvotkin, Executive Vice President at the Professional Services Council. Alan, before we get into the weeds here, bring us up to speed. What is bimodal IT as you understand it? How would it apply to government?
Well, bimodal IT, in my interpretation, means that the federal government will try to balance the embedded base that it has, the stability of its current platforms, while at the same time trying to take full advantage of the agility and future opportunities in technology as they go forward. So it's trying to balance both of those.
It makes sense. So where did this term bimodal IT come from? Where is OMB looking for real-world examples in the public and private sectors?
Well, it comes out of the research. Lots of smart people talking about this as a strategy, often used in the commercial marketplace a lot, where the companies can look at how much money they have available and how do they balance both what they're currently doing as what they can do in the future. In the federal marketplace, it's a particularly challenging issue because the federal government spends about 70% of its dollars for information technology on the systems and platforms that it already has. Yet those are rapidly becoming out of date, and how do you move more quickly to different environments, different capabilities, while not breaking the work that's working for customers and agencies and the taxpayer?
AlanCIO.com wrote a great piece about the bimodal IT model earlier this month. In it, Forrester Research called the approach a strategic mistake and a trendy Band-Aid. Here's a quote. It can also create a troublesome schism between IT groups competing for funding, resources, skills, and most importantly, the attention of the business. So what do you make of that point? How can government avoid the creation of competing cultures?
Well, it's very difficult, and in the stovepipe world of the federal marketplace, it's very difficult for agencies. In moving to the embedded base, different from the agile future, the federal government plans for those differently, it acquires those goods and services differently, and it implements them differently. It's not clear who has the authority to make those trade-off decisions between protecting the current base and the future changes. We have certain laws that have been recently passed. The federal CIO is given, the agency CIOs are given authority over that IT, but they're not the users of those goods and services, and then they don't often control the budget. So we have very significant competing factions in the federal marketplace. Finding the owner and finding the key decision makers is a challenge. The CIO magazine is right to raise the issue, and it may be more challenging at the federal level than it is at a commercial marketplace.
You know, we can't talk about this topic without mentioning the Obama administration's push for a $3.1 billion IT modernization fund. How does the ITMF relate to this discussion?
Well, the IT Modernization Fund is an effort to address one component of the burdens and challenges that face the federal marketplace, and that's how do you pay for it. Today, the federal government budgets on an annual basis. The IT Modernization Fund is an effort to look at it over long term and say, look at life cycle cost of the embedded base and the future systems rather than just what it costs on an annual basis. Congressman Steny Hoyer has introduced a bill to facilitate that. We at the Professional Services Council have strongly endorsed that. The federal government needs to break from the past if it's going to move forward into the future.
Now, NextGov reports some big names in the tech industry like Northrop Grumman, Cisco, Dell, and Intel have signaled their support for ITMF. The question, will that support help the bill overcome Republican opposition in Congress? What do you think?
My answer is I hope it does. The Republican opposition, or the opposition by some members, there are some Democrats who have some concerns. There are Republicans who are supporting the proposal. The idea here is to make it very clear to them what the government intends to do with that money, how the program will be laid out, and wisely the administration and Congressman Hoyer and others have talked about starting small, making sure that the design works and can be implemented fully before moving to a larger implementation. I think that's the right strategy. Certainly something has to be done in the short term if we're going to find a way to move forward.
Good to have you on the show. Alan Chvotkin, Executive Vice President at the Professional Services Council. Thanks, Alan.
My pleasure, Morris. Thank you.